The greatest advancements in human civilization have come through the ability to share information, whether that's the development of the written language, the development of the printing press, which allowed for the mass distribution of information via printed text, to now a vast network of computers that can communicate amongst each other and allow people to communicate across greater distances with much more ease and freedom than ever before in human history. There's no question that the internet is the most disruptive and impactful technology that humanity has created. Humans are inextricably social creatures, and as such, any means by which we can connect to other humans automatically will place that technology in a higher status and strata than another one. In addition to connecting individuals to groups, the internet has allowed for the exponential growth and development of business. It's transformed the way that business has been done, and the development of new technologies that prior to the internet may have taken immensely longer or not have occurred at all. In fact, many of the new technologies coming out are predicated upon the use of the internet. I chose the internet as the disruptive technology primarily because not only is it, in my opinion, the most disruptive, but it also has had the greatest effect on my life. It has helped shape the person I am, and it's going to be a major tool that I use in my career, as well as in my personal life. It transformed my life initially when we got our first PC in the early 90s. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and it didn't have much on it. Encarta, Math Blaster, some game like Tejong or something about matching tiles, but initially it was just something we used to complete homework assignments and maybe play a few games. But as the technology improved, the internet became more filled with useful information, and games developed that were immersive enough to pull me from outdoor activities. It was about 1997 that I would say that my love of video games started when Age of Empires came out. Up until that point, I'd mainly been focused on sports and playing outside and things of that nature. And then as the games became more intricate and strategy-based, it created the passion for me that I have now today that is going to be my career in video game development and design. And if I think more on the totality of how the internet changed my life, I think of the times when it was just starting up, and it was something that you utilized at home via a landline. And probably the most first initial impact, and a positive one, was the ability to download music. Going to the gym often, I would be listening to my CD player. CDs getting scratched all the time. And then the iPod came out, and I was able to download and have hundreds of songs in one spot. I had to use the internet to do that. And then as technology advanced and Wi-Fi became more available and streaming services, and I can listen to any song at any time and paying a subscription. And that in itself has disrupted, for instance, the music industry. Albums are not created the same way that they used to be, not even with CDs. Now it's all digital, and it's all accessible a lot of times via subscription to a service, as opposed to flat out buying the album, depending on how you choose to go about doing it. Same with watching movies. You used to go to Blockbuster, pick up a movie, bring it back. And then that started to change when Netflix came around, even though you would still have a physical copy at first and then send you a CD via the mail. A lot of times you ordered it over the internet. And then once it started to stream, Blockbuster not following suit and sticking with its original business model became extinct. The internet has definitely had impacts beyond what I could maybe state in this short presentation, but definitely one that is probably one of the most important was allowing me to stay connected to my family when I was overseas and in the Navy, and can't really overstate the value of that, especially for other people that were in a similar situation. It's something that people used to have to, they relied upon letters, and maybe if they were lucky they got phone calls, whereas fortunately when I was able to use Skype and speak with my family on a weekly basis, and stay connected with my niece, who was very young at the time, but I helped raise her for the first couple of years. So it's definitely had a big impact on who I am and the way that I've done things. We covered in class a lot of the development of the internet, its beginnings in the early stages as a means of reconnaissance and communication for the military, how it was intended to be utilized as a way to get a leg up on information on the enemy, its development into a rapid net, and then subsequently its personalization and commercialization into the internet that we know and use, well, that we know now, and then the first iteration that was widely accessible to the average person was the World Wide Web, which was created by Tim Berners-Lee in 1889. The original intention of the internet was to provide an alternate means of communication to the telephone, one that conceivably was more instantaneous and reliable and could allow people to access information more easily. It's safe to say that it accomplished those goals and far more. It's a little more difficult to think of an area that hasn't been affected by the internet. Medicine is a good example of one that has hugely been impacted with the advent of electronic health records. Health records and pharmacy prescriptions all used to be kept by hand, written down. The health records kept at the foot of the beds for patients in hospitals oftentimes. And many old school nurses will tell you that things were easier and done better when they were all kept by paper. And this is probably just due to resistance to change, but evidence-based practice has shown a vast decrease in medication errors when the electronic medical record was implemented. And among other things, the use of the internet to confirm patient medications has decreased the incidence of polypharmacy. Polypharmacy is the instance of multiple medications being prescribed by different physicians to treat a similar condition. If a patient goes and sees a pulmonologist for one condition and then goes and sees the cardiologist for another condition, sometimes they could be prescribed similar medication, whether it be the same exact medication or one of a similar class. And it's obviously detrimental to the patient's health if they're taking a beta blocker from the cardiologist and then an ACE inhibitor from the pulmonologist, both to treat hypertension, and that obviously can result in patient harm. The prescription drug monitoring program has been in effect for the last 100 years or so, but it has gained an invaluable tool and become much more effective with the use of the internet. The prescription drug monitoring program is a system which regulates the prescription of controlled substances such as narcotics. Both regulates the physicians who prescribe them and monitors the frequency with which they prescribe them, and the patients who receive them and where they receive them and how often. It makes it much more difficult for individuals to basically use the system, because at least for sure in California, when you are picking up a controlled substance, you have to scan your ID. It gets communicated throughout the system, and they know if you have had some. This has led to increased, or I should say decreased, abuse of legally prescribed narcotics. When Professor Christensen from the University of Harvard first defined disruptive innovation, he was describing a phenomenon by which innovation would transform an existing market or sector by introducing a simplicity or convenience that was not available because the high cost was the status quo. And the internet did this across multiple sectors and transformed the way that business was done, the way that technology developed. In fact, there's a long list of things that were impacted by the development of the internet, and things that people didn't even conceive of initially, the internet made possible. Things like seeing your doctor, even if you live in a remote part of a country, a city, via telehealth, using the internet to watch tutorials to fix things. But perhaps the greatest thing that the internet allowed was the amplification of the individual voice, giving people a platform that they otherwise wouldn't have had, the ability to speak about things in a way that wouldn't have gotten the same amount of attention as before, because of the inability for people to reach a lot of people before. And it's been this amplification of the individual that has created a new dichotomy between government and those that they govern, especially in democratic societies such as the United States. They're held more accountable in theory, and more social issues are able to be addressed and recognized that may not have garnered national attention in the past. That's not to say that giving everyone a voice is a positive thing. It also allows for a lot of misinformation to be disseminated, requires people to have more responsibility when first creating posts and content, relaying information, and upon those who are reading the information and digesting it to do their own research and make sure that what they're hearing is, if it's an opinion or if it's a fact or if it's a construct that is absolutely false. And it's hard to tell sometimes. So it has risks, but I think the net benefit of giving individuals the ability to voice their opinions is better than the opposite would be antithetical to the nature of a democratic society. I could spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours speaking about different things that have been impacted or will be impacted, or the potential implications of the internet on future technologies. Instead, I'd probably think it's more beneficial to focus on a few things. And along the vein of medicine, there's already developed a whole new branch of medicine in which it's kind of colloquially known as telehealth, or seeing a physician for non-emergent situations via Zoom or another audio-visual medium. This works okay for those routine visits and can help identify potential health problems and reduce the barriers that some individuals have to deal with in even getting to the doctors. In addition to that, the machine learning that comes through the internet and the application of artificial intelligence in the use of medicine has shown a lot of promise, particularly in the assistance of surgery. Another impact of the internet is its influence on artificial intelligence and the ability for machine learning to occur. And one of the first places this has really been utilized that has a significant impact is in surgery. In a paper titled Artificial Intelligence in Surgery, Promises and Perils, published in the Annals of Surgery by Dr. Hashimoto et al., they review the systematic use of artificial intelligence in relation to surgery as it's gone on thus far. It details the promise that's been shown and the problems still remaining with the current technology we have at hand. The likely trajectory of artificial intelligence when it comes to surgery is in the augmentation of